In this lesson of the Beyond Formulas Excel Modeling Training Series, we'll look at how to create a client-ready model. The goals of this lesson are to build models so that your stakeholders can easily take them over, to learn how to use a special starter template file that I've produced for you, to easily generate a set of instructions up front in your model so that someone can follow along, to learn a consistent formatting scheme which can convey consistent meaning to your readers, and to stop your stakeholders from messing around with your model using various protections. You'll need the Beyond Formulas Modeling Starter Template file. To help you get started faster, the starter template will give you a quick way to get going, including a basic layout, custom cell formatting styles, and a pre-made VBA macro to create a table of contents for you with one click. The key to making a client-ready model is to label everything. The way I like to do this is to pretend that my mom is going to use my model. Think about the difference between how you search Google and how your mom searches Google. Start by labeling every cell, every row, and every column with self-explanatory names that a layperson can understand really easily. Don't use acronyms or abbreviations or jargon. Next, always create an instructions tab which describes what is on each page and how it works at a very high level. I've included a special VBA script that can help generate a table of contents really easily. I'll demonstrate that now. The Excel template file begins with all of the names of the worksheets already laid out. This is actually accomplished via a special macro. So I want you to go ahead and select all but the first line of the table of contents and delete that. Then move your cursor to cell A19 and hit Ctrl, Shift, and T. You'll see that the macro has populated all of the rows below with the names of the various data worksheets. The way you convert this into a table of contents is by taking the formula in cell B19, which contains all of this hyperlink stuff, and copying that down all the way to row B27. What this has done is created hyperlinks to each one of the worksheets in question. Clicking on one of them takes you straight to that page. Lastly, what you would do is go down the list of all the worksheets and add both the intention of that worksheet and a light high-level overview of what that worksheet does. The next trick to creating client-ready models is to use consistent formatting to convey the same meaning for each cell or region. Define a simple and consistent color scheme that clearly identifies all types of data, inputs, assumptions, interactive tools, and calculations. In this case, blue generally denotes variables. I use green for anything that denotes scenario inputs, which we'll cover shortly. Calculations are in black, important messages are in red. Anything that clearly needs to be looked at because it's an error or mistake that your formulas have picked up should be in bold background red with white writing. And lastly, I use this custom purple formatting with the down arrow to convey that a cell is a drop-down list. A couple of other formatting tricks that I have personally preferred is to hide the grid, which I find just makes things look messy, and to use special tab colors to denote the special meaning. Notice how I use black for data, purple for lists, red for variations of the mini model logic, up towards blue and green for output and input assumptions. If you think that you have to painfully go and create these colors and shades each time, there is an easier way. You can use custom cell styles to make things consistent across all of your models. I'm going to demonstrate this now. Looking at the starter template file again, you'll see that I can select any cell, hit the Cell Styles button up in the ribbon, and then simply add any one of the custom styles that we've just discussed. You can easily set up your own custom styles by adding a new cell style and adding the formats accordingly. One of the benefits of using my starter template file is that you can easily apply all the custom styles that I've created to any model that you have. Start by opening a new workbook. This is a workbook into which you intend to add your model. Next, you hit Cell Styles up in the ribbon menu, Merge Styles down on the right-hand side, and then you select the Beyond Formulas Modeling Starter Template file. You'll notice that if you go back to the Cell Styles menu, we have added all of the custom styles that I've created previously to your new workbook. The final trick to creating great client-ready models is to make them unbreakable or stakeholder-proof. There are a number of tools that Excel provides that let you achieve this. The first one is data validation. As much as possible, you should use this to prevent your users from entering bad data. Otherwise, your clients can easily break your model. We'll demonstrate this now. Data validation can be used to achieve a number of ends. The first one, and my favorite, is that it can be used to create drop-down lists. To do this, select the cell you'd like to make a drop-down, hit Data in the ribbon menu, and Data Validation. Now, you can select from a number of different options. Whole numbers will ensure that the values entered can only be a number. Decimals, obviously decimals. List is the one I use most frequently and allows you to specify a range of values that cell is able to take. In this case, I go and select all the names of the scenarios in my list. When I hit OK, you'll notice that this arrow pops up on the right-hand side, and I can now only select from bad, average, and good, which are the names of my scenarios. This is a really useful tip in large data sets when you're trying to force your users to enter the correct things. But as noted previously, data validation can also be used for other number formats. In addition to the list, you can also select date, time, text length, or custom, which includes a special mask that you could use to test for specific data inputs such as email addresses. As you can imagine, data validation can be key to ensuring that only the correct values are added to your model and that your client cannot break it. The next tool we'll discuss is Worksheet and Cell Protection. You can lock down your model using Worksheet protection so that only certain cells, formulas, and worksheets can be changed by your user. Excel gives you a huge amount of control over what your user can and can't do. The keys to protecting cells lie in the Options menu for each cell. To do this, you can hit Ctrl+1, which brings up the Format Cells menu. Head across to the Protection tab and untick or tick the Locked option. Locked implies that when the worksheet is locked, this cell will be uneditable, and unlocked obviously implies the converse. In this case, we want to keep the cell protected, but we want to go to the green cell, hit Ctrl+1, and make it unprotected. Next, to protect the worksheet, head to the Review tab in the ribbon menu, and you'll see two important options. The first one is Protect the Sheet, and the second one is Protect the Workbook. Protect Sheet is the option that gives you granular control over exactly what you can and can't protect in your model. In this case, go through the long list and decide what you would love your users to be able to do and not do. These include adding and deleting rows, editing scenarios, editing specific objects, including charts, and as simple as editing and formatting specific cells. In order to complete the protection process, all you do is you add a password. In this case, I'm just going to make a test and repeat the password. And now your worksheet is blocked. You'll notice that I can't make any changes to the cell that I denoted protected, while I can make changes to the cell that I had unlocked. To unlock the sheet, I merely hit Unprotect Sheet and enter my password again, which is test. The third trick I have for you is linked pictures. These help turn ranges or any model objects into non-editable images, which makes them incredibly useful for user dashboards. Let's say I wanted to take this purple range and stick it on a dashboard. All I would do is select it, copy it using Ctrl+C, hit Home in the ribbon menu, this little arrow below Paste, and finally hit this little image with this little chain link beneath it, standing for Linked Picture. I can also hit the I button for a shortcut. Excel has now created an exact copy of that range, and I can drag it around to the side for you to see. If I make any changes to the original format, you'll see that is replicated in the linked image. But you'll see that the linked image is just that. It's an image. I can't make any changes to it. If I want to go and see the underlying data, I can just double click on the linked image, which will take me back to the original range. This trick doesn't only work with cell ranges. I can also select a range above which a chart or other object sits. I can copy that range and I can paste as a linked image. You'll see again that Excel takes a snapshot of that range and anything above it and creates an image out of it. If I make any changes to the underlying range by changing the chart, again you'll see that the changes in the chart reflect in the linked image. To go to the original range underpinning the linked image, I can just double click. In this way, I can use a series of linked images to refer to both tables and charts in the rest of my model to create seamless, user-facing dashboards that can't be edited or changed. The fourth trick I have for you is print areas. These are particularly relevant if any of your stakeholders like to print out the results of your model at any point. This gives you full control over exactly what the print output looks like so that you don't have unexpected outcomes such as your model printing out on 5 pages wide by 4 pages long. To use print areas, simply select the area that you'd like to print, go to Page Layout, print area, and set print area. You have now denoted this range as a print area, which you can see in the top left-hand side. Hitting print at this point, or Control P, will open up the print dialog and show me only the area that I've denoted as a print area in the print preview. You can only set up one print area per sheet, so make sure that everything you'd like to appear in that output is contained within the range. And my final trick for creating client-ready models is to use form controls. These use very standard web-like interactions to allow your users to edit key variables in your model using things they're familiar with: checkboxes, buttons, combo boxes, or option buttons. Let's go create some of those now. To create form controls, you have to have enabled the Developer tab in the ribbon. You can do this by hitting File, Options, Customize Ribbon, and ensuring that the Developer tab is ticked. Hit OK, and confirm that the Developer tab has appeared in your ribbon. To add a form control, you merely hit the Insert option and then select any one of the form controls in the top part of this dialog. Don't use the ActiveX controls unless you know what you're doing, as they require a little more fiddling and work in VBA. To add a basic checkbox, what you do is select the checkbox, drag it out, and there you go. But these are only valuable if you can link them to real cells that can drive your model. If you click away from the checkbox and try and click back on it, you'll notice that all it does is trigger the checkbox positive or negative. To have access to the underlying properties of the checkbox, you need to right-click on it and hit Format Control. All form controls work fairly similarly. They all add an additional Control tab in the Format Controls menu, in which they allow you control over the default state of the form control, and most importantly, this Cell Link button, which allows you to tie the value of this form control to a specific cell. Hit Link Cell, select any one of the cells at random, and hit OK. This time, when I select and unselect the checkbox, you'll see that cell D38 responds by turning true and false. There are a range of different form controls I can use, including the combo box, which is one of my favorites. The combo box provides a much more formalized version of the drop-down list that we've created previously. Again, to edit the various properties of this form control, hit Ctrl+1 to access the Format Control menu. The combo box allows for both an output and a set of inputs. The input range refers to all of the values that the combo box should contain. Hitting the Input Range button will allow us to select the range. I'll go up and select all the names of the scenarios that I'd created previously. Finally, you'll want to use the Cell Link option to point the combo box at the cell that you'd like to change. In this case, let's pick cell F37. Hitting OK populates the form control with all the values we've just set up. If I now select the combo box, you'll see that the values that I'd specified, bad, average, and good from my scenarios, appear on the drop-down list. And selecting any of them edits the cell F37 with the appropriate value. In this case, 1, 2, or 3 as the index number for the option that I've selected. You could imagine using these form controls in really powerful ways to allow your user to edit your model inputs or to update things like charts or dashboards. And so we've covered all of the most valuable tools for creating client-ready models. You can use a combination of these 5 tools to limit what your user can do so that your model's integrity remains intact and so that your users only enter data that works with the rest of your model.